Okay, Education and Health Subcommittee on Higher Education will come to order. Please call the roll.
Senator Pillion. Senator Hashmi.
Here.
Senator Cosgrove.
Thrilled to be here.
Senator Peterson.
Here.
Senator Locke.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, so be quiet. So I have some bills that are going by for the day. What did you have?
Mine is 1410.
Senate Bill 1410. If you're here on that one, that bill will be going by for the day. I don't know how many more meetings I have. I think I have one more. Okay. I have one more?
They said you're up. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right, anything else going by for the day?
Yes. 1434.
And Senate Bill 1434 will be, again? Didn't you have this going by?
First time. I'm happy to do the other bill.
Okay, all right.
You need a motion, Madam Chair?
No, without any objections, that will also go by for the day today. We may not meet next week, so that'll be all right. Let's see, Senator Norman's not here. Senator Edwards, you have Senate Bill 1019.
This should be a simple bill.
That's what they all say.
It's a goodwill. I have some people here to explain it, but this has.
Have a seat.
We need
Turn the microphone on so we can all know what you're saying.
We need a simple amendment to it.
What's the amendment?
On line 16, where it says, "as a local education agency," that should be deleted on line 16. The rest of it, I think everybody's in good shape. It has to do with Goodwill, and Roanoke is developing a program, and part of the program is to provide adult education, only for adults. The not-for-profit is Goodwill. So what it says, notwithstanding, et cetera, the department shall authorize a Virginia-based nonprofit organization to provide schools for adults to earn an industry-recognized credential or dual college credit and high school diploma on one or more diploma pathways to set forth in subdivision 3, whatever it is, in which enrollment is open on a space available basis to adults who reside throughout the Commonwealth. This is a...
Okay, Senator Edwards, I didn't get the amendment. Maybe everybody else did.
Okay. On line 16, to delete the words, quote, "as a local education agency."
Okay.
Delete those words.
Okay, so that's being deleted. Let's vote on the amendment. Let's get a motion on the amendment. It's moved and seconded that the amendment be adopted. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, so we have the amendment.
It's a program that Goodwill in Roanoke in northwest Roanoke is developing. It's a dramatic program that we think is going to be great for the Roanoke Valley. And there's people that like to...
Okay, are there those here in support of Senate Bill 1019?
Yes.
You're just speaking to the mic.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, I'm Marianne Gilmer. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Goodwill Industries of the Valleys in Roanoke, Virginia. Just giving you some background, Goodwills around the country have opened 30 of these schools, and we hope to join them in opening the first of these schools in Virginia. We know that over 670,000 adults in Virginia are lacking a high school diploma. In Roanoke alone, that's around 14,000 individuals, and if you look at areas like Danville and Pittsylvania County, over 17% of adults over the age 25 are lacking a high school diploma in that region. The Excel Center is a high school for adults who dropped out and want to re-engage in their education. Our classes are in-person direct instruction, and we offer transportation assistance as well as on-site free childcare and life coaching at no cost to the student. And more importantly, we serve students who need their high school diplomas, but also in a manner that prepares them for the workforce. Every student is connected to industry certifications as well as concurrent college enrollment opportunities. So really what we ultimately want is for them to fill jobs that are in demand occupations within their local communities, and they're also coming out with their high school diploma. So just so you know, it is an evidence-based model. The Lab for Economic Opportunity at University of Notre Dame completed a study on the model that's been done nationwide, and they found that the graduates are 22% more likely to be employed and are filling jobs in demand sectors such as manufacturing, construction, education, and healthcare. And then finally, they see a 39% increase in their earnings over 5 years. What's really great about that finding is that that is equitable across age, gender, race, socioeconomic status, or geography. Those earnings are holding up with the 39% increase in their earnings over 5 years. So we encourage you to support Senator Edwards' Bill 1019, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you. Anyone else here in support?
Jim Turpin.
No, I'm good.
Ye-
I'm with her.
We don't need anybody to repeat what was said. Okay. Anyone here in opposition? Okay. All right, so it's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1019 be recommended for reporting as amended. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And Peterson's an aye. Okay. Any opposition? Okay, thank you, Senator Edwards.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Senator Norman?
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman.
And how are you today?
I am just happy to be here.
I bet you
You know,
are.
it is my day to make
Let's
higher
see
ed
what
the happiest
let's see what
group
we
in
can do to
Virginia.
ruin that for you.
Is this one we asked for?
10:30, it was on the docket for last week. And yes, these were line amendments that were asked for.
I didn't bring that one with me.
10:30, okay.
You're not doing
But I-
10:30?
You can pass by.
Let me do another one. Give me a copy of the bill if you don't mind, please. Could I start with one that higher ed will love, which is 1358? 1358.
1358, certainly.
Madam Chairman, as everyone on this committee has heard me whine for a number of years, that I think the General Assembly has abdicated some of its responsibility in trying to encourage higher education to constrain some of their internal policy decisions, and one involves growth. All of you, either directly or anecdotally, are familiar with the graft of college-age students that are in the pipeline, and that it is going to be dropping precipitously on it. And the concern that I've had, and there's been one or two of your colleagues that have been supportive of it, that as some of the major 4 or 5 schools that have market power substantially increase their enrollment, which the General Assembly or SHEV has not exercised any control over, it's putting greater pressure downstream on other schools. And I don't mean that to be disingenuous to anybody, but if William & Mary decides to increase 600 students, to do that, they're digging deeper down into the pool. If Virginia Tech decides to increase it 3 or 10,000, they're digging it deeper down into the pool. And where you're feeling the constriction are places like Radford, Longwood, Mary Washington. And I understand that higher ed, they like to try to talk with a single voice until it comes down impacting their individual institution, and then it becomes very centric just to that group. So basically what this does, and I recognize the unpopular approach on it, but basically that higher education institutions can only restrict their student body growth to 2% over a biennium. And you say, well, why you pick a biennium? I'm going to show you on another bill where the major portion of state debt on capital is currently concentrated. So there's more I could say about it, but basically that's the bottom line. I think with the exception of, and Senator Hashmi, you may know better than I do, I think with the exception of maybe one community college that there's been a decline in enrollment amongst those. Some want to attribute it to the pandemic, some want to attribute it to other things, but that's the bill.
Are there questions?
Madam Chair.
Senator Hashmi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Senator Norman, I certainly agree with you that we are facing a crisis in Virginia higher education. We've seen those figures. We know that enrollment is declining, and in fact, they have been declining for almost a decade, well over a decade in community colleges. But this is a nationwide trend, and I think we're going to have to be quite creative in terms of addressing the issue and maintaining our universities and colleges. I was curious about the 2% enrollment cap. Does that include transfer students, or is this incoming freshman population?
It was not my intention to capture transfer students because, well, I think we all know, if I remember correctly, we passed legislation, if you go to a community college and you maintain a B average, that you're entitled to access to any of our four-year universities. Does it sound right?
Well, some of our colleges require a higher GPA, but you're right. The articulation agreements, if you have graduated from a two-year.
So I was not trying, excuse me, to disrupt the articulation agreements. And I mean, some of you know, my background. 3 years I was the attorney for a president of a college. I taught for 11 years, and over that period of time, I learned things about higher education I did not know, and I say that in a positive way. Just wasn't exposed to it. Wasn't my profession. It got to be very important to me to do that period of time. And where I'm going with that is I realized, because of what the state has not done in the minds of some, that to increase student enrollment has been used as a business model to try to get more out-of-state students, so they're paying 105% theoretically of what it is. But your short answer is no, I'm not trying to upset the articulation agreements.
Okay. Madam Chair, one more question.
Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the 2% is just on incoming freshman students, then. I think that might be something that needs to be cleared up in the bill language. But I think my larger concern is, are we perhaps going to in some way harm ourselves as we try to address this issue? That is, students who may perhaps be going to some of our institutions that attract a certain student population, if they are facing a 2% cap, if they're not able to then be admitted, do you see the potential that they may end up going out of state, that we may actually lose them from Virginia colleges altogether if we impose this enrollment cap?
I'm not sure that I agree with your underlying premise, and I mean that very, very respectfully. My experience with, we have certain four-year institutions have market power. I mean, and we can dance around it any way we want. And I don't think that we are losing students from Virginia in those market power universities. I think where we are losing them is my description of the downward pressures by accepting more students, that you're dipping into the applicant pool of some of these other schools, which I do believe that is causing some migration. I do believe that. Just my myopic view of the world.
Senator Norman, is this cap being imposed on specific institutions?
I did not narrow it to specific universities.
Or just all public institutions of higher ed?
Yes, ma'am. Now, if I really want to get aggressive, which I can do, and frankly, I was trying not to be insulting, and I wanted to have a conversation with you all. I am receptive, one, to clarifying the language about the articulation agreements, which I think is important, but could probably give it to those top-tiered schools, which are going to continue to have market power. I mean, the reality is Virginia Tech, UVA, William & Mary, they're not going to have any problem in attracting kids. That's just the reality of it.
Well, now that the
Which-
professor is gone, maybe.
I ain't going there. I ain't taking that bait.
If they're not going to have a problem in attracting students, then why do they need a cap?
Because they continue, if we have no constraints on them, higher ed is unilaterally going to determine without our intervention the size of their student bodies. And I had a informative discussion at Virginia Tech, and I saw they were creating a new village, and my immediate question was, is that new village, is that all new students that is coming in, or is that just a realignment of bed space? Same students, different location, and I was told that it was just a realignment of bed space in the new Virginia Tech village. Well, if they were going to bring in 3,000 or 5,000 new students, that has an impact on us. And, rarely in the years that I've sat on the higher education committee do we necessarily correlate increased enrollment. When we're looking at it, we are told after the fact we're going to increase our enrollment, and then we're looking at the cost. And there's a lot of discussion that Virginia has not met its responsibility on funding higher education, and I agree with that premise on it. But some of it is attributable to the uncontrolled growth of enrollment. And if we still, within Senate Finance and Higher Education Subcommittee, are working with a fixed amount of appropriations going to higher education, and we even try to keep up, say, minimally with the cost of living or whatever else comes along, it just puts greater and greater pressures on there. That there is a correlation between what we fund and the more students that are admitted where we have no participation. And 5 years ago, I'd have never said this.
Are there those here?
Madam
I'm sorry.
So enrollment. What you're saying is that increased enrollment at the top three directly affects enrollment at the Longwoods and the Radfords and the schools of that size. Is that correct?
That is my premise. Some in higher ed who are at those elite universities are going to dispute that.
Okay.
But if you were to have a private offline discussion with some of those other schools that are potentially impacted, I think they have a different perspective.
Madam Chair.
Senator Hashman.
Sorry, just a comment that you made, Senator Norman, about we don't have controls over increasing enrollment at some of our larger institutions. I think there are some internal controls that are in place, faculty capacity of programs and infrastructure and so forth. So there are some necessary controls in that sense. I understand the anxiety of the cannibalization, where larger institutions perhaps are taking students that would go to some of our smaller colleges and universities. But at the same time, I think we run the risk, if we put a cap on certain institutions, that we are going to send students out of state, and our efforts in the last few years have actually been to keep students in Virginia and to increase enrollment and to make sure that we are able to keep talent here and also attract talent from out of state and keep those individuals in state as they graduate. I'm just afraid we're running the risk of going contrary to all the efforts that we have invested in the past 10 years or more in raising and elevating our institutions so that we are drawing the best and the brightest, as well as giving opportunities to so many Virginia students to be able to successfully get higher education credentials and also then work in Virginia.
Madam Chairman, for years we've had sort of this artificial ratio of in-state, out-of-state students. And we've been debating this for years. 45, 55, 60, 40, of course, with the higher number being in-state. And how many times nobody on this, my friends from Northern Virginia say, why can't I get more kids in UVA? The entire graduating class of Thomas Jefferson could go to UVA. We could fill the entire freshman class from Northern Virginia. So, we've had those pressures, and I get it that we are relying upon the applicant acceptance internally of it. There ain't no problem in getting kids in there. And you raise, I think, what, is more than just a philosophical discussion. We increase the size of enrollment. The next thing we know, we come back is we need more money for faculty salary increases. We need more instructors. We need more dormitories. We need more buildings for classroom space. And I've got another bill that's equally objectionable dealing with that, but on curriculums. And there is an ongoing cost. And Senator Locke, I guess, has been here, almost as long as I have, which is 16, 19, but
No.
when has higher ed ever come in and said, we don't need any more money? Never, never, ever.
Okay, are there those here in support of Senate Bill 1358? They're not lining up, Senator.
I'm sure they will in a minute, though.
Those in opposition? They're not lining up for that either.
Well, they've been doing their homework.
Okay, Mr. Blake?
I'm Peter Blake from Chev. Neither support nor do not support. There's a lot.
Peter, let me take you outside for a minute.
There's a lot to unpack in many of the comments that y'all have made, and I appreciate the senator's comment and concern about this issue. It is real. It is a legitimate concern. It's not a one-for-one transfer. If you don't get into University of Virginia, it does not mean you'll go to Longwood or Radford. There's a lot of student choice that's involved in these sorts of decisions. I mentioned to the senator the other day at your other subcommittee meeting that we do have a process where we approve enrollment projections every year, and we'll be doing that this year, and your staff from the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee is on that review team. So that as an alternative, that might be a more nuanced way to approach this. There's no sanctions associated with that, but there are some tough conversations. So again, neither in favor nor opposed, but I wanted you to know that I had this conversation with the senator about an alternative. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have Senate Bill 1358. Peter brought up a point, Senator Norman.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is, so a student doesn't, if we put in this cap, who's to say that if a student doesn't go to UVA, that they're going to Radford?
I'm not going that. I mean, that's my argument, but I've been
Right.
arguing it for over 5 years.
Right.
And I will say, I'm not going to codify anything like that. I'm not that, I'm irresponsible, but not that irresponsible. But I can tell you that there've been offline discussions with some of these other schools where they are feeling it.
Okay. All right, we have Senate Bill 1358.
Madam Chair, is there anybody from the universities that?
Come forward. I did call for comments. tell me I need her to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi.
Hi, my name is Sehi Perez. I am a senior at McLean High School in Fairfax County, and I'm an incoming first year at UVA. And I really do want to focus on the point that the gentleman from Chev focused, in the sense that as a student, when we're looking at colleges to apply to, we're given instructions to look at safety schools, to look at target schools, and to look at reach schools, right? And that's really the biggest thing that's implemented in us as we're starting the process. And if a student is applying to UVA, the chances are that they're also looking at places out of state, like Michigan. And I think that's a point that goes to what Senator Hashmi said earlier as well, in the sense that there's no guarantee that if a student doesn't go to UVA or because of the cap ends up not being able to go to UVA, that they'll still stay in state. Because for me, at least personally, UVA was my top choice. But I also got into Mary Washington where my brother went. And I know that if I ended up at a school out of state that accepted me, that I liked the program as much as UVA, I would have gone out of state rather than ending up at Mary Washington.
Thank you for your comments. Yes,
Madam Chair.
Pillon.
Is Radford or Longwood here?
They're not gonna talk.
You know, they ain't gonna talk.
We have somebody. No, we have somebody.
I need them to speak into the mic.
Hi.
Hi.
So, Madam Chair, I think Senator Norman is looking out for you guys. That's what I get from this piece of legislation. So, are you, when Tech or UVA or William & Mary go to their wait list, does that affect you?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Lisa Godier from Radford University. I would say yes. When larger in-state institutions take more students, it does impact the Radfords, the Longwoods, the Mary Washingtons. That being said, I greatly appreciate what the Senator is trying to do, and I do think it's part of a larger conversation that the General Assembly needs to have and to look at in terms of enrollment growth and different authorities that institutions could have to recruit more students. That being said, the 2% enrollment cap, it negatively impacts Radford University. As you're aware, we've had a significant enrollment decline of probably about 30%.
I want to carve you all out.
And,
No, I mean, the recommendation.
and so any cap in our enrollment growth would be a disservice to the university, but I do appreciate the senator. He has always looked out for the smaller institutions like Radford, so thank you, I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Thank you, Senator
Come up so
Pillion,
so we
for-
can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Pillion, for giving me the opportunity to respond to your questions. Emily O'Brien with Kemper Consulting, representing Longwood. I think Lisa pretty much just hit the nail on the head. We definitely appreciate the senator's concerns about changing demographics and some institutions growing while others are not, and certainly want to continue those conversations moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, it was not an oversight. It was very deliberate. I didn't use any names on these universities because, you understand why they call me Senator Cream Puff. I know that. And some of these people, from higher ed.
I never did.
No, well, you kicked my ass.
You've never heard that.
But it's a very awkward discussion for higher ed. And, a couple of them came to my office and were, and I said, what's the matter? I said, we were apprehensive about talking to you about this. And I get it. It is a delicate subject. And that's why I didn't call out by name some of the universities. I know how they feel.
Okay, so we have 1358.
Madam Chair.
Senator Hashmi.
I appreciate the efforts, and I think this is certainly an issue that we need to continue to address. There just seems to be, in the language as is presented, it's overly broad. It encompasses community colleges as well, I would think, in the way it's written, and it also impacts those institutions that are trying to grow enrollment. If we put caps on at 2%, it doesn't discriminate between those institutions that are in a phase of growth and those who are not. I would recommend that for those reasons, I would recommend that we pass by indefinitely.
I will second that motion. The motion is to pass by indefinitely Senate Bill 1358. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
He abstains because he wanted the amendment to carve out the other portions.
And I believe I will abstain Peterson because I don't know what it will do. Okay.
So is that?
So I'm going to abstain Peterson. Okay. Let's go to 1098.
1098 would be the next one. You will love this one. One of the things that has been perplexing to me, once again, it's the lack of legislative oversight and control over the curriculum expansions of our higher education. And I don't have any empirical evidence to do this, but commonsensically, I think some of it comes about as a result of competitiveness. I remembered a number of years ago when some of the universities started doing food courts on campus. And all of a sudden, that got to be very popular because we're competing against the applicant population that's looking at those kind of amenities. Then it migrated to, I don't know what you call them, physical training rec centers for schools on it. But I took a look, and the number of engineering schools, for instance, in Virginia, we have either 7 or 8 engineering schools. And I think that that is a result of competing in the marketplace. And I don't know why we need that many engineering schools. If a kid wants to study engineering, we should be able to limit the options that they have. They don't need 7 or 8 options on it. And I am not suggesting that we undo anything, but I mean, I'm looking down here, sociology, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 schools have sociology curriculum. Political science, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14. And it is academic competitiveness. The problem with it is that academic competitiveness results in a significant cost that sometimes we don't look at. And I found it rather interesting. Treasury provided me with this on tax-supported debt. There are fiscal consequences to this, just as there are fiscal consequences to unbridled enrollment. And you can see almost 50% of the tax-supported debt is in higher education. And I just think that the General Assembly at some point, and this may not be the catalyst of it, but at some point the General Assembly needs to intervene and recognize that there is a direct, quantifiable correlation between bringing in students, adding new curriculums that ends up driving tax-supported debt. And I haven't even gotten to the tuition, which is the last part of it. I get the same kind of objections. Who are we to be telling higher ed what to do? Well, as I remind a couple of the institutions that I'm fairly close with, do not forget that the Commonwealth of Virginia is the largest annual donor to your institution every year without exception. But yet, we exercise very little discipline or control. And I use that term advisedly. I just think the time is coming for us not to be so myopic. And, maybe my whining is a catalyst to start a broader discussion going forward. But I just genuinely believe we've ignored it too long.
I do have a question on this one.
Okay.
As it relates to curriculum, I know that institutions of higher education have to answer to accrediting bodies.
You would know that.
Yes, I do. So if the General Assembly intruded, that is specifically the Senate Committee on Education and Health and the House Committee on Education, into approving or into program and instruction, what would be the implications on that accrediting? And I'll ask Peter Blake.
Okay. Or I'll accept whatever you represent, because
Okay.
I know that you are.
I know that SACS has to approve
Yes.
accreditation. What would be the implications of our intrusion into that?
Madam Chair, Peter Blake from Chev. I do not know the answer to that, but I know that SAC-COC does have concerns about legislative or executive involvement with curricula, but I cannot answer that question without knowing more
If I
information.
may ask, I don't know, is that over accreditation, or is that over, Peter? Or maybe
Yes, sir.
Madam
Sorry.
Chairman knows. Yeah, schools can, start new curriculums, and there's the accreditation issue with SACS, but on something like this, is it really interference that they are concerned about?
SAC-COC is concerned about overreach by executive and legislative bodies. Whether or not they would perceive this as being that, I do not know.
I mean, I know that, excuse me, Madam Chair, I know that they're concerned about accreditation, but this is a step even before you get to
Yeah.
accreditation. Nobody would, I wouldn't think any school would want to create a curriculum where they couldn't get the accreditation, but this is an issue before you even get to creating the curriculum. And and down in our area, Madam Chairman, you would recall this. I remember one of the first schools to start a cybersecurity curriculum was when Norfolk State, I think, got a national grant, if I recall, and they were a leader. Well, the next thing you know, there's cybersecurity curriculums, popping up everywhere on it. So I just wonder if some of it's academic competitiveness, and this would precede any accreditation.
I've sat in on program planning, I've sat in on accrediting stuff for SACS, and adding something else is more than a pain. That's just me.
Okay, well, I respect that you have more experience than I do
Yeah.
on this topic.
Senator Hodge.
Chair, thank you. My concern is similar with the SAC-COC process, and any time a new program of instruction or a new curriculum is developed at an institution of higher education, it goes through extensive review, and part of that is seeing if there's capacity for the program to be sustained, if there's enough students, and also then the full presentation to SACS. A new program cannot be implemented until SACS COC gives the green light on it. So it is a fairly structured process. It's a process that brings in many stakeholders. I think it would be very, very disruptive to have the General Assembly be a part of that process when the institution, along with their partners and the accrediting body, are doing it, and I would argue doing it effectively. You shared your concern, Senator, with the fact that we have poli-sci programs in 11, 12 colleges and universities, sociology and so forth, but I am having trouble wrapping my head around, what if I'm a student who's at Longwood, and we have decided as a General Assembly that Longwood is not allowed to teach a curriculum in biology, not allowed to have biology majors. what is that student going to do? Should they want to pursue a degree in biology? How are we channeling curricula into different institutions? I don't understand how that would work. Part of our general ed instruction programs, the Gen Ed program that every college freshman, sophomore typically goes through or does it through dual enrollment, will be taking a core set of classes, whether they're around writing or history, fundamentals in science, mathematics. Don't we need to have the capacity to have those departments and those programs in our colleges and universities without dissecting it in the way that this bill might be doing?
Madam Chair, I understand what you're saying, but I think, clearly this is something that would have to be transitioned in, but clearly an applicant, if those are important to her or to him, can be a consideration going in. And I ask this out of innocence because I don't know. Does SACS take into consideration the economic impact of these decisions for curriculums? Are they just looking at accreditation?
Madam Chair.
I think I know the answer.
It's everything.
The reason I led with engineering, if I am going to be a Shakespearean English major at some university, I just need a good professor. If I'm an engineering major, and there's one sitting at the table here, the infrastructure costs and everything associated with it is dramatically disproportionate to my Shakespearean English class.
We're dramatically more valuable.
Than a political science major?
How about an English major?
Yeah, that was me.
How about an English major?
You can go far with an English degree, I'll just say that.
Okay, those here in support of Senate Bill 1098. I know Peter is neither.
Peter doesn't want to get in the crosshairs here. I understand.
Opposition. Okay, Peter is
May I just?
neither.
Again, neither. But
Yeah.
should you advance this bill, there is a line about implementing a new curriculum for an existing program, which is different from the general program approval that we do. This would create a whole new bureaucracy and structure of managing institutional programs that we're not currently involved in. Of course, we could be if that's the will of the body, but if you wanted to advance this and strike that, then that would make it
Where you
a little better.
on line 18?
Thank you, sir.
It's job security.
Are you coming up?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Hi, speak real quickly. Stacy Gordon with Partners for College Affordability and Public Trust. Considering the massive amount of state taxpayer dollars that this higher education receives in Virginia, we believe that our elected officials should have additional oversight over these decisions. Thank you.
And you are who?
Stacy Gordon, Partners for College Affordability and Public Trust.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All righty then. We have Senate Bill 1098.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question?
Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. Senator Norman, you mentioned engineering and some of the sciences, and we have numerous colleges. Don't we have a shortage of engineers and computer programmers and computer scientists and chemical engineers, et cetera?
Madam Chairman, I would say I don't know about engineers. I do know computer scientists, data analytics. I think there's a pent-up demand, unemployment that's there.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just don't know about engineers.
But
I'm not trying to reduce
No, I
the
understand.
number of students who are going into engineering. I'm just saying maybe the General Assembly should take a focus on, if you want a particular curriculum, I'm not suggesting you narrow it down to one or two, but if you like an engineering degree, you've got 7 or 8 options just in Virginia before you even look at out of state.
All right, just to clear the record, Newport News Shipbuilding would hire 250 engineers today if they walked in to send in an application. So we do have a critical shortage of all the STEM.
Yeah. I would agree.
education curricula. So, thank you.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
Not getting a lot of enthusiasm from you all today, which is okay. I'm not thin-skinned about this, as you know. That's why they call me cream puff, right?
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I'm going to make a motion to report the bill. And was there an amendment offered on line 18? Or not?
I don't,
Okay, yes,
I'm not aware of it. So.
Well, if we can report the bill at a sub to go to full committee, maybe we can get a little more knowledgeable in this. So I would make that motion that we report the bill at a subcommittee to the full committee.
okay. What? There's not a second.
That's all right, and I'll talk later.
Okay, cream puff.
Then I will move that we recommend passing the bill by indefinitely, and Senator Hashmi will second that. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Peterson's a aye as well. Okay, are you going to do 10:30? You want to wait and do that next week?
I'm going to do, wait a minute, I got one more. And this one,
10:30?
I'm a little more passionate about.
That's Senate Bill 10:30.
10:30. Oh, yes, okay, I got it. Yes, ma'am. I do have an amendment. Thank you.
There's an amendment to Senate Bill 10:30.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Do they have that?
Thank you.
A motion on the
I move the
amendment.
amendment, Madam Chairman.
Second.
Moved and seconded that the amendment be adopted. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you, Madam Chairman. As you can see, on line 109 and through 110, what it does is 109 students in it, including the exact amount. Well, actually, the amendment is not right. I'll adopt all policy for students that depend on each enrollment. That's it. Oh boy. You see how that looked. Let me explain to you what I'm trying to do, and let's see if we get there. Madam Chairman, what I was attempting to do was to provide a word that I have learned to disdain, and that is more transparency. And particularly as it relates to tuition and fees. And what I had hoped to do was to amend the bill so that when tuition and fee statements were submitted to parents or students, that it would disclose to those parents or whomever is paying the students the amount of tuition and fees that they are paying that is used for financial assistance to needy students on it. And to give you a for instance, and I did get some information from Chev, of the undergraduate tuition and fees at William & Mary, $3,522 students are paying for financial assistance that goes to other needy students. It's a cross-subsidization. And you could not find 1% of the parents and students who are aware of this, and I had to fight like hell to get this information on it. At the University of Virginia, where that young lady spoke, $3,429 is out of tuition and fees that is being paid for financial assistance to other students, and nobody knows it. And the purpose of this bill was to disclose, number one, disclose, let's say, who will we pick on today? Well, I won't pick on anybody in particular, but how about UVA? I love to pick on them. The last numbers, that I got was tuition and fees, $31,104, which by almost $7,000 is not even the most expensive of our market universities on it. But $3,429 of that amount is going for financial assistance to, quote, needy students, but nobody's aware of it. I asked the question, how about Tommy, who is out here struggling as a country lawyer, and I send my kid to the University of Virginia, but I don't have the resources, the personal liquid resources to do that. So I draw down on my home equity line of credit to pay for her tuition or other forms of loans that are coming, and I am still paying $3,400. That's $12,000 over the course of 4 years that I'm paying for needy students. And nobody is aware of it. And part of the reason I was challenged to get it is, well, we don't know exactly what it is. We know how much we as an institution provide. I said, well, it ain't hard on it. And so, working, with Chev and others. But it ranges from a high of $3,522 per year down to zero in some of our major colleges, and I don't mind telling you who they are. They're Radford and VMI that do not do that. They use endowment proceeds, unrestricted endowment money on it. And so what I would like to do is, I think, number one, parents and students are entitled to know this. I think obfuscating it and saying, here's your bill of $37,798, and embedded in that is almost 10% that's going to student assistance for needy students. And I think they're entitled to know that. And secondly, I think that they should be given the opportunity to opt out of it so that they would not have to pay that amount of money. Now, you may be aware that the General Assembly has been providing monies for financial assistance to needy students, but I think we, as the General Assembly, have abdicated some of our responsibility. And you say, well, we've shifted it on everybody because it's taxpayers' dollars. Tuition and fees being paid by families is not spreading it across the universe. And so, as a companion to this, I have put in a budget amendment to increase financial assistance for needy students by another $100 million. This is not right. And if people were paying that and they knew it, that's a totally different deal.
Madam Chairman.
Senator Cosgrove.
Senator Norman, do you, by any chance, know over the spectrum of colleges and universities what that figure comes out to?
I'm sorry, what the figure?
If the aggregate figure for all of that, it's got to be staggering.
Senator Cosgrove, Madam Chairman, I don't think that I have that.
I was just curious. I really didn't expect you to have it, but I was just offhand if you did that.
Peter might be able to do that. I mean, I know what it is per institution.
Yeah. But how many students are there at William and Mary? Ballpark.
6,500 undergrad?
At William and Mary.
Do you have that?
The total amount, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, the total amount in what we call tuition revenue used for aid, or also unfunded scholarships, which essentially are tuition waivers that are already authorized in the code and have been for decades, is probably about $450 million. Now, in addition, there are other tuition waivers.
Yeah, there are.
Like for military and public safety, for example, National Guard, a variety of different tuition waivers that you have granted over the years that account for another $100 million. So as institutions collect the tuition revenue, they then determine how to allocate it to provide for everything that they need to do, including these waivers, including financial aid and so forth. As I said, the unfunded scholarships have been authorized in the code for decades. At least one university has explicit budget authorization also to do this. So, I mean, it is something that, as the senator said, is kind of grown and grown. It's a very common model, certainly among private institutions, to do this kind of tuition discounting. And as I told the senator the other day, I've always been a fan of spreading the financial aid responsibility among, 8 to 9 million Virginians instead of however many might be enrolled in any particular institution. So I applaud his effort to put some more money in. I'm not sure that I would say that I'm a big supporter of this bill. So.
If I could ask Mr.
Why? Why don't you want people to know?
Well, it's not that I'm hiding anything, Madam Chair, Senator, not that we would hide anything, but I think it's a little more complicated than as has been described. Now, maybe some of our university friends could explain that in more detail. And maybe it's something that would be a lot easier than I'm imagining, but you have in-state and out-of-state bills, you have graduate, you have undergraduate bills, so all of those would be affected, I guess, in some fashion because of the way the universities collect revenue and then determine how to allocate it among their priorities. So that would be my concern.
Senator Norman.
Peter, before you leave,
Yes, sir.
do you know any public college and university in Virginia that discloses that add-on for financial assistance to needy students so that people know it's being paid?
Madam Chair, Senator, that is buried in some reports that we get, which of course I've shared with you, but it's not on any, it's not on a bill that an institution presents to a student. So there are ways, Senator, for one to make that public, but it's not on the bill.
Senator Norman.
I'm sorry?
I guess if you're Senator Norman, you can find it.
It wasn't easy.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. I know some schools, I was on a higher ed foundation board for a number of years and learned a little bit, not much about how they operate. But of course, globally, you've got restricted funds and unrestricted funds. A lot of alums don't like to give unrestricted funds, but there's still some fairly significant endowment dollars are there, and that's what some of the schools are using to provide that financial assistance. But I just think it's the most tempered term I can use is I think it is disingenuous for families to be paying that and totally be unaware of it. Because, and I don't care, this will really get me in trouble, I don't care about the out-of-state people. I really don't. I'd like to restrict it, to in-state situation on it. But I just think it is very disingenuous to approach it like that. And most of the market power schools have pretty significant endowment, and I know that they don't like to use that. But I look down there, at least two of the schools have figured it out, and as I look down there, George Mason University, they have almost 21,000 in-state undergraduates, $108 compared to 3,500.
Okay.
May I ask just one more question and I'll stop?
Yes.
All right. Senator Norman, you said you put in a budget amendment for $100 million. In the event this bill goes forward, is there any restriction on that 100,000 that these tuitions will go down by whatever they have been receiving?
I have not done that. I have not done that, and I actually have the budget amendment, which I'm going to tweak, which I haven't gotten to get it would not give relief to the out-of-state students.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, those here in support of Senate Bill 1030. You all are awfully quiet. Anyone in opposition?
Move to report.
Second.
Moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1030 be reported. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, I'm pretty sure Senator Hashmi is going to be opposed.
Okay.
I don't know about Chap Peterson, so I'm going to
Okay.
abstain him, and I don't know about me just yet.
Okay, well, just.
So I'm
I
going
mean,
to
in the
abstain.
interest that,
Okay.
You know, sometimes I can be a little sneaky, not very often, but I am,
All right.
I'm going to make an amendment to that, you know, make
Okay.
it clear.
Right,
that
because this one,
It's only
we
applicable,
haven't
well,
adopted,
that one,
okay.
yeah, but also
All right.
that I've got to clean that applicable only to in-state.
okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Senator-
courtesies, I
Senator
appreciate it.
Newman,
Steve, I'm going to go back down.
and then I'll get you Senator Deeds.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Hello, Senator Newman.
We have Senate Bill 910.
910.
Madam
Okay.
President, Madam Chairman, first, thank you for allowing me to go by for the day last week. It was very productive. We got all the schools together, and I think we've come up with a substitute that is approved by everyone that has been around. And so if the subcommittee would consider the substitute.
We have a substitute. Moved and seconded that Senate Bill 910 substitute be adopted. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, we have substitute.
Great. Madam Chair, if I'm correct, it's UVA, Virginia Tech, William Mary, James Mason, JMU, BCU, and Mary Washington. They're the ones that worked on it, and I thank them. Madam Chair, this is the threat assessment bill that came out of some difficult situations where we had some unfortunate shootings in our colleges and universities. And when we look back on it and say what could have been done better, I think this bill gets at how it is to be done better. In general, Madam Chair, the bill requires each threat assessment team at each public college and university, upon a preliminary determination that the individual poses a real threat or significant threat of violence to others, to do a number of things. One, obtain a criminal history background information and health records, which, by the way, is allowable, not only allowable, but expected under what's called FERPA, which is the Family Education Rights Privacy Act, which is kind of the HIPAA of schools. So that is not only available, but expected to be obtained. Next, to notify the campus police departments and local law enforcement and local Commonwealth's attorney within 24 hours of the information so that they can be prepared in case there's something that happens, and disclose any specific threat of violence that the person poses that was a specific item of threat. So it's not just a general threat. And it has to be a articulatable or significant threat of violence to qualify for these. Madam Chair, I don't want to do too much going through the piece by piece, but if I could just take you a second and go through a couple of the items in the bill. One, currently each institution approaches a articulatable and significant threat in different ways. This bill tries to bring them all together and have them be under one code section. It also creates a task force to reduce additional best practices kind of going forward. When a university campus threat assessment team makes a preliminary determination that a person has that articulatable and significant threat to others, they must do certain things. One, at that point, go out and make sure that they have all the records that are expected for them to have under FERPA. Next, notify in writing the campus police and others individuals that reside in that area, and also make sure that the Commonwealth Attorney understands the situation that exists. They must disclose any specific threat of violence posed by the individual as part of the notification. So it's not just a general referral. It is one that comes with a specific threat that is anticipated that could happen. Madam Chairman, there is something that's called the TAT This requires custodians of this information to produce that information from the TAT upon requesting. The new TAT members will have 8 hours of training within 12 months, and also returning members of the TATs will have 2 hours of training. Madam Chair, there are other items here, but the emergency clause also has been added to this, the enactment clause has been adding to this bill on line 67 through 63, and basically that requires the task force and other secretaries and others to determine the best practices in the model and make some more recommendation to us in the next legislative session.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Okay. Those here in support of Senate Bill 910?
Hi, my name is Lori Haas. My daughter attended Virginia Tech in 2007, which was the impetus for establishing the threat assessment teams in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you to this body, and many of you were there at this time. We're grateful to Senator Newman and to all the public universities and colleges in the Commonwealth to revisit this situation. Circumstances have changed, knowledge is gained, law enforcement procedures and other information is helpful in these. Nowhere in the bill does it mention notifying families. I don't know if that was discussed with your work group or with your study, but HIPAA does not, not HIPAA, FERPA. FERPA, I've been told by many lawyers in relationship to the shooting at Virginia Tech because of circumstances that happened afterwards, that FERPA does not apply to students under 21 and are dependent on their parents' tax return. So I wonder if the task force going forward could look at notification to families. It could perhaps make a difference to some families.
Madam Chair, that's new information to me, and I don't want to make a decision right here. I think we need to work with all the colleges and universities, but it makes sense. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I support the bill.
Okay. All right, thank you. Others in support? Anyone here in opposition? Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the substitute for Senate Bill 910 be reported. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are those opposed? Okay, thank you. Peterson and Schmidt. Senator Deeds.
I've got Fiscal 1386, and there's a substitute that doesn't make substantive changes, it just makes technical changes, puts the language in the right place.
There's a substitute.
Moved and seconded that the substitute be adopted. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
This also deals with the cost of paying for college. The costs can be pretty daunting, especially when the student is estranged from his or her parents, or when the parents are incarcerated. Many students are unaware they can apply for a dependency override to give them independent status. The purpose of this bill is to make the process easier and more transparent by requiring public colleges and universities to create a dependency override application form that meets a number of criteria spelled out in the bill, such as including potential circumstances that do and do not typically qualify for an override, and the types of documentation required to support the application. The bill further requires the form to be made available electronically on the institution's financial aid page to ensure students are fully informed. There are people here that wish to speak in favor of the bill. I don't know of anybody opposed to it.
Okay. I see we have a whole bunch. Okay. If you all could just come up and let us know who you are, and don't need a whole lot. Just let us know that you're in support of the legislation. Give us your name and who you are. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Natasha Sangvi, and I'm here with the Coalition for Virginia's Future, which is a youth-led coalition group. And I'm in full support of this bill. As someone who is currently going through the college process herself, bills like this only open doors for students who have historically in the past not been able to attend college and things like that, and especially for students who may not know about these dependency override processes and what they can offer to them. For many students who are in unconventional circumstances and things like that, this bill would enable them to go to college and have the exact same shot at a successful career as it would with any other student. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm pretty loud, so I don't want to scream into the mic here. But I'm Ella Duncan High. I'm here with the Coalition for Virginia's Future. I'm 18. I'm a high school student myself, and I'm doing the college application process. So obviously this is a very important piece that I am very involved in and want to hopefully get past. I wanted to share a story of my friend who could not be here today, but of someone who is currently not sure if they are going to college because they have been kicked out of their parents' house because they are part of the protective class. Now, they are unaware of this option, and they were provided limited resources, especially since they didn't have a college and career specialist at their at their high school. So that was a big issue, and having access and having information is so important to high school students who are in tough positions like my friend was in. And it is unfortunate that I did not know about this bill until it was too late for them to apply to their dream colleges. They are a 4.0 student, but this year was hard for them. So this person represents hundreds of kids in Virginia. So it's definitely something that is very personal to me and something that I have seen affect my peers. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony.
Hello, my name is Abby Garber, and I am also with the Coalition for Virginia's Future. Personally, I am lucky enough to have the support from my parents to pay for me to attend Wellesley College next year. I'm a senior, and I've already committed there, and I'm grateful to be able to have that opportunity. But I have a lot of friends similar to Ella who do not have that opportunity and who have to rely on the dependency overrides forms to support their journey to higher education, but they are not aware of these forms. And what this bill would do is open up the accessibility gap and allow everybody to have access to these forms and make higher education more accessible in the Commonwealth, and therefore give our Commonwealth's youth a brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello again. My name is Sehi Perez. I'm from McLean High School in Fairfax County. I'm also with the Coalition for Virginia's Future. I want to focus on the fact that this isn't a new issue. Every single office that we've talked to today, whether it be the delegate or one of their staffers, they've related it to an experience that they had in college where a friend or somebody that they knew ended up having to drop out because they were financially cut off from their family, and that led to them not being able to continue or finish their education. So that's really the future that we want to prevent. And in supporting this bill, we're hoping that not only when students are applying to college, that they're aware of the dependency override processes at the colleges that they're looking at, but also once they're in college, they're aware of how to get a dependency override. So,
thank you so much.
Could I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Why would you talk to a delegate when you can talk to a senator? I'm only kidding.
I figured. Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people for this.
All of you are in support, right? Raise your hand. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all so much. Is there anyone here in opposition? If you dare.
I do have a question.
Okay.
For Senator Deeds.
Senator Cosper. Well, thank you all for coming. We appreciate your support.
Thank you. And I mean no harm to Bill. I am going to vote for it. I guess the question is, do you see the opportunity for dishonesty in this?
Yeah, I guess so, but that's why there's language that spells out pretty clearly what you've got to be able to prove. That's on basically lines 43 through 48. I mean, so anybody that fills out one of these forms, the dependency override is not new. They can do it now. But this requires, put some transparency in the process, requires each school to have the form and put it on their website so people can figure out how to get it done. So if there's a possibility of dishonesty, that already exists.
Okay, Madam Chair, and I'll just ask you. I thought that I was really rich in Charlottesville. Charlotte's got people that want to, kick their kid out of the house.
Maybe so.
For a week or two and have them fill out one of these. That's all. I think you covered it, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Move to report. Second.
moved and seconded, Senate Bill 1386, the substitute, be reported. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Peterson and Hashmi. There's no need to applaud us. Okay, I need Peak was here and Suderline was here, so we need to get them back. Okay. Oh, you can pitch, you got a bill? We can go ahead and kill yours real quick. Oh, this is fun. It's just you and me. Just you and me.
Not fun. Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill's would allow Chev to increase the maximum rate of reimbursement for the workforce.
What's your number?
1422.
Okay, let's go.
This bill would allow Chev to increase the maximum rate of reimbursement for the workforce credential grant from $3,000 to $4,000. It's not been updated since its inception in 2006, and as we all know, that the cost of the program has increased significantly since then. For example, due to inflation and program costs, increase in gas and materials, the cost to deliver a CDL or welding credential has increased drastically, making it more expensive for a Virginia community college system to offer these credentials. This is a pay-for-performance program that supports individuals in attaining an industry-based credential in high-demand occupations to better serve the regional and state workforce needs. And under this bill, the state will still support up to 2/3 of the cost of the program. Students complete training and obtain a credential. The student's still responsible for 1/3 of the cost.
Okay. Anyone here in support of Senate Bill 1422? Hi.
Ellen Davenport with the Community College System. Yes, we support the bill. It's a tremendous benefit for working adults. And since the program started in, well, it's approved first in FY17, the state has invested $55 million in the program, and $2.6 billion in increased wages have benefited the state from the individuals who've received the additional credentials. And I have a lot more information if you'd like, but anyway, thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pilley.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Emily Webb with the Virginia Chamber of Commerce. We're also in support of this legislation. Providing for additional credentials leads to employability and will ultimately strengthen our talent pipeline.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in opposition?
Move to report. Costco seconds.
Oh, okay. It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1422 be reported. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Hashmi and Peterson approve. Okay. He just increased money for you.
I was supposed to testify in support of that bill.
Oh, you support it?
I do.
Oh, okay. No, we just passed. So we just need Peak and Suderline.
I have somebody contacting them now.
Okay. What about Senator Ruff?
Madam Chair. Senator Ruff's Bill 1076 is identical to Senator.
And it, he didn't mean to file it, so it's.
So.
I'll make a motion to roll that into mine.
We want to do what we just did and then roll it in?
That's fine.
Okay. So just move to.
I move to reconsider the motion that we recommended passage of Senate Bill 1422.
Okay, second.
All right.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. Everybody. So now let's just.
So I'd make the motion to roll Senator Ruff's, what number?
1076.
1076 into my Senate Bill 1422.
Okay. Second. And you'll both be chief co-patrons?
That's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we need to, okay, all in favor of rolling Senate Bill 1076 into Senate Bill 1422, please say aye. Aye. So, everybody.
I'll make the motion there. Everybody's good on that.
I'll make the motion that Senate Bill 1422, we recommend reporting 1422, recommending
Okay.
1422.
As amended.
As amended, second.
Okay.
Was it amended?
It'll be a substitute.
Okay. All right, so, and a second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. And these two. Okay, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You have 1429.
Yes, ma'am. So as you look at Senate Bill 1429, you see it's a short Section 1 bill dealing with hybrid schools. The situation, I was not familiar with hybrid schools until I heard from some of my constituents that their situation was their children go to a private school for multiple days during the school week, receive education on those days that would look just like what you'd expect at other schools, public or private schools, with qualified, certified teachers, things of that nature. And then the other 2 days a week, they receive instruction at their home based on what their teachers at their school the other 3 days send home with them and their parents, and basically it is overseen by their parents then. And that's a model that is still not that widely used in the Commonwealth, but the reason that produced legislation that's in front of you is it still costs tuition to go to the private school, just like it would anywhere else. And under Virginia law, we allow 529 plans to be used for those education expenses. But if it's a hybrid school, they are not able to use it. So if these children were going 5 days a week rather than 2 or 3 days a week, they would have this tax benefit available to the benefactor that's trying to help them. In this case, it was their grandparents. So what this Section 1 bill seeks to do is say that for these tax purposes related to 529, a hybrid school functions like these other schools where it's already eligible. And the constituents that brought it to me first, they should have emailed each of you, I believe, but they weren't able to be here because they're working in Roanoke today.
Okay, I'm confused. So who's using the 529 money?
Well, currently, no one is, but if this were to go into effect, the 529 that the grandparents created for their children could then be used at their private school that, in this case, isn't just a private school, but it's a hybrid school, because the other 2 days a week they're functionally homeschooled, even though they received the education guidance from their teachers that directly teach them the other 3 days a week.
So for the 3 days a week, where's the student going?
To the private school.
Okay.
But-
And for 2 days a week, they're being homeschooled?
Correct.
Okay.
And as a result of that 2 days, though, they're not eligible to use the 529 for the expenses of the other 3 days, unless we pass this legislation to change it.
Any questions?
1429.
Okay. Okay, is there anyone here in support of Senate Bill 1429? Anyone here in opposition? Okay, we have Senate Bill 1429.
I move to report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1429 be reported. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
No.
No. And I'm not sure what Peterson would say, so I'm going to abstain. Okay. So it's,
Just goes forward with no recommendation one way or the other.
right.
That sounds great. Thank you. It's better than half the possibilities. I will talk to Senator Peterson. Thank you.
Were you able to get Senator Peak?
I had somebody contact his office.
Okay.
He's currently in Commerce and Labor, but they said they might send a speaker.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, we can do yours, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first bill is 1130, and there is a substitute for that.
It's been moved and seconded that the substitute for Senate Bill 1130 be adopted. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So we have the substitute.
Thank you, Madam President. This bill is trying to move us forward with our G3 program. As you know, 2 years ago, we established the Get Skilled, Get a Job, Get Ahead program, otherwise known as G3. That program has launched effectively. We've got many students going through the program and benefiting, frankly, from the effective reduction of cost. The tuition-free program is quite attractive, and in addition to that, it provides support for students who need the support for additional resources, such as transportation or childcare and so forth. So the program is working effectively, but one of the limitations is that it doesn't fully address all of the workforce needs that we are especially seeing now since the launch of G3. We encountered the COVID crisis. We saw pretty significant depletion of our workforce in key areas, especially around healthcare professions, around education, around technology, and other skilled manufacturing jobs as well. So this would this bill seeks to create a work group that would begin to address some of those concerns around the need to expand our G3, to be more inclusive of transfer degree options. Presently, G3 does not include any transfer degree options, but also to think about making it much more flexible and responsible to growing workforce needs in certain areas that we may not be anticipating right now. So providing our institutions a greater degree of flexibility to be responsive to emerging workforce needs is part of the responsibility then of the work group to define how to do that, how to do it effectively, how to identify curricular programs that can be a part of G3. So the work group would consist of a variety of stakeholders, including SHEV, which would be the first to convene the work group, also our college presidents from community colleges and our baccalaureate institutions, our Virginia Office of Education Economics, and so forth, and also our legislative members who chair our education committees. And so putting the work group together, asking them to help us define the next steps in expanding G3 and also making it more flexible is the goal of the work group.
Are there questions to Senator Hashmi on 1130? Are there?
Okay.
I did speak with Peter over the weekend, and he was, I don't want to speak on his behalf, but I think he was good with it.
Those in support?
Madam Chair, Ellen Davenport with the Community College System. We did talk to Senator Hashmi about the bill, and I was out of the room. Is there a a substitute that establishes the work group, or is that just?
Yeah, that's what
Okay. We would be in favor of the bill then, yeah, because there are some things we need to discuss over a long-term period.
Okay, thank you. Anyone here in opposition to 1130?
Second.
Moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1130, the substitute be reported. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, Peterson, aye. Senator Peake. And then we'll come back to Congress.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine. I sat through the Norman Marathon.
I know. I'm, apologies.
Oh, my God. He talks a lot, doesn't he? I'm getting a lot faster, Madam Chair.
Okay, you have 991.
991, and it is a bill to provide exemptions to vaccine mandates at institutions of higher education. So it's going to allow for parents or guardians or students, if they're minors, parents or guardians, if the student's a minor or the student themselves, to greater exemptions for for religious or medical reasons for mandatory vaccines. And it changes the guidelines from the American College Health Association to the Board of Health. So those are the main deals. It is going to allow students to opt out of vaccines. And I believe we have somebody here to speak on behalf. Yeah.
Yes, Senator Cosgrove.
Is that all vaccines?
Well, any that you've got the, not going to allow all, or is it all?
Yes.
It is.
Vaccination mandates.
It actually is, yeah, allow them for religious or medical reasons, reason from a doctor.
Okay, all right. Those in support?
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Barbara Zedler. I'm a physician and scientific researcher from Powhatan, Virginia, and I'm representing the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance in support of SB 991. This bill strengthens the durability of the religious exemption to immunizations, required immunizations for public institutions of higher education to be co-equal to the medical exemption. Under current Virginia law, a student's First Amendment right to practice their religion would be nullified whenever the Board of Health, an unelected administrative advisory board, has declared an emergency or epidemic of disease. How can a religious exemption be situational, but a medical exemption be durable in an emergency or epidemic? Each is based on factors that are unchanged in an emergency or epidemic, sincerely held religious beliefs or practices, or valid clinical reasoning or evidence that the vaccination would be detrimental to the health of the individual. SB 991 protects religious freedom in the event of real, potential, or invented emergencies. Without a religious exemption, failure to comply with a commissioner-mandated vaccine is a Class 1 misdemeanor that is subject to civil penalty up to $25,000 per violation, with each day considered a separate offense. If we've learned nothing else during the past 3 years of the corona crisis, it's that there is the real risk of arbitrary and capricious government overreach due to the emergency powers granted to unelected and unaccountable bureaucrats. And the First Amendment right to practice our religion and assemble peaceably were among the first to go. To that point, SB 991 also specifies explicitly that a public institution of higher education may not arbitrarily expand, reduce, or modify its immunization requirements beyond what is specifically codified in law and regulations. So I thank you for your listening, and I urge you to vote yes to this reasonable and common sense amendment to the law. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Others in support?
Good afternoon, Madam Committee. I am Linda Cox. I am an LCSW, also from Powhatan, licensed clinical social worker, with the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance, and everything Dr. Zedler just said. I am also in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support? Anyone in opposition? Okay. Senator Peake?
How about that? Nobody in opposition, I mean,
That doesn't
goodness.
mean anything.
Oh. We know what the bill is. It's to give people who don't want to take that vaccine, who have concerns about vaccines, for religious reasons or medical reasons, they have to have, with a doctor, verify the medical reason. So I'd ask that you move it on to the full committee. I know you want to.
Madam Chair.
Senator Hoshman.
We already have the religious exemption, which you pointed out. It's already there, right, for individuals who want to make that claim. Is that not correct? We have religious exemption.
It is current, but if it was mandated by the Board of Health in an emergency, they did not have it at the and would not have it at the higher education. Is my understanding. Is that that's yes?
Yeah, what happens is when an epidemic or public health emergency is declared, the religious exemption becomes null and void.
It overrides the religious exemption. So that was a concern. I'd brought a bill similar to that year or two ago. So it is different there, and it does provide for the medical opt-out.
Senator Peake, do you have any I'm sorry, Madam Chair, may I ask another question? Do you have any epidemiologists or public health officials who have stated support for this bill?
Just prior witness is a doctor.
We have the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance has a number of healthcare practitioners in all aspects of medicine as well as medical scientists.
But doctor would have to sign the form for the medical opt-out. So the other is just the religious.
It's to make the religious exemption.
You've given your testimony. Thank you.
I have no more questions,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Other questions? Okay, we have Senate Bill 991.
I will second to further conversation.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 991 be reported. All in favor, please say aye.
Madam Chair, substitute motion.
Substitute motion,
Move to pass by indefinitely.
and I'll second that substitute motion. All in favor of the substitute motion to pass by indefinitely, please say aye. Aye.
He would definitely vote against y'all and vote with.
He says
pass it
aye
on.
too.
Oh, no.
All opposed? Okay.
That's right. Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee. There you go.
Okay, we have one more bill, and that is Senate Bill 1110.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just say up front that SB 1110 is still a work in progress, and we are working with our higher education folks as well as our stakeholders. But you may recall, Madam Chair and other members of the committee, that we had presented a similar bill last year on ensuring that students had access to their transcripts regardless of the fact if they owed debt to their institutions. And the primary purpose of the bill last year, of course, which is replicated in this bill, is to enable students who are suffering from debt, but also giving them the opportunity to continue on to higher education, continue their degree program, if they need to transfer to another institution, to engage in employment. They oftentimes have to show their transcripts for those issues. And so we had passed that bill out of committee as well as it had passed the Senate last year. It did not succeed in the House, and so we are reinvestigating efforts to work on the language of the bill this year. So a modification that we are presenting this year is that the academic transcript would be released for purposes of applying for an employment or seeking financial aid or pursuing opportunities in the armed forces or the National Guard or pursuing post-secondary opportunities in career or technical job training programs. Secondly, that for transfer purposes, that a student be allowed access to those credits that he or she has successfully completed and also paid for, that those credits not be held hostage, that they be able to use those credits to demonstrate success in particular courses so that they don't have to repeat those courses again and incur even more debt. So those are some of the changes that we are working on. And then finally, another change is that the student and institution engage in a repayment plan that would offer affordable monthly payment options for the student so that they could successfully pay down their debt. One thing that we know from the research is that students do want to pay their debt. They are facing an inability to do so, and that's why they have incurred the debt. And we're seeking options to enable students to make right with the institution, but also to be able to successfully complete their degree programs or to engage in employment, which would actually help them to repay the debt that they owed. As I mentioned, this is still a work in progress. We are trying to clarify some of the implementation procedures, the structures that would be necessary for an institution to work with a student effectively in this manner. And so I'm more than open to engaging in conversations that will allow us to get this bill right so that we can hopefully be successful in getting it through not just the Senate this year, but also in the House.
Are there questions to Senator Hashmi on Senate Bill 1110?
One, Madam Chair.
Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. Senator Bass, I've seen the different criteria for, getting your transcript, Armed Forces, National Guard, career and technical job training. Can you envision something that's not in here that they'd just say no? That seems to cover about everything that somebody would need a transcript for.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator. The slight change there is that if you are seeking to transfer credits to another institution and you have that you still owe debt to the first institution, that you do not have access to your full academic record, but only those credit hours for which you have successfully paid.
Okay.
Other questions? Those here in support?
Good afternoon, Jay Spear with the Virginia Property Law Center. So I have talked with maybe 5 or 6 students that this has happened to, and I thought I'd give you a very quick summary of what they've told me. Typically, the student has to drop out part of the way through the semester due to some sort of an illness or from their illness or a family member. The students.
Somebody call.
Oh, sorry. The students were all upset about the fact that they had to leave the college, but of course they had no intention of not paying the tuition. They just had no way of paying back, usually several $1,000s. Some tried to enter into payment plans, but often the university requires as much as a third up front, which is several $1,000s, and they couldn't afford it. Some were sued for their debt and had their wages garnished and or their tax refunds confiscated. So there is another way for the universities to collect this debt. One thing they had in common is they could not pursue their dreams. Most of them wanted to go back to the school they left, and when they were refused, they wanted to go to another school or a community college to try to complete their degrees. a few students went back to school and then had to retake numerous classes. And I had this woman, I talked to a woman this morning. She had completed 100 credits, 3 years of a 4-year institution, but her financing dried up and she had to leave, and she ended up owing several $1,000s because she was halfway through the semester. She cannot get her transcripts, so she cannot get credit for the 100 credits now are stranded. She's tried to get into 3 other 4-year institutions. She can't get in because she doesn't have the transcripts. She's been close to getting several jobs, but they've turned her down due to her inability to complete her 4-year degree. She told me one job she would have gotten would have paid her enough that she could have paid off this debt to the university. All these students told me that this is really a heavy toll on them, so I would ask you to please vote yes on this bill.
Thank you. Others in support?
I have a question.
Jay?
Oh, so you said that she couldn't get into another university because she had the debt from her tuition from the prior university?
It was the transcript issue. She couldn't get her transcript.
But how was she going to pay for the other university?
Well, I assume she had some other way to pay for the last year, but she couldn't come up with a huge amount of money up front. But I didn't question her on that specific thing, so I don't know.
And if I could just add, also, Madam Chair, Senator Pillion, when the issues of federal financial aid kick in, if someone is seeking federal financial aid, if they have already taken a course once, twice, as some of these students need to do because they don't have access to their transcripts, they have to start that process over again. Federal financial aid will deny the student the opportunity to take the same course multiple times, and then also every time you take a class, it is counting against your pot of federal financial aid, so it dries up pretty quickly in that context.
So, Madam Chair, Senator Hoshmi, or perhaps you, is this a prominent problem? I mean, I heard about this bill last year, but
I think according to
a lot of students in Virginia.
Yes.
I mean, if it affects one, it's too many, but is it affecting a lot of students?
According to the study that was done through the budget last year, over 14,000 students who attended a public 2-year university, and 600 or 80 of the 4-year university, it's 82,000. So it's a lot of people. Surprising.
And if I could just add, Madam Chair, sometimes we're not talking about a huge amount of money. Sometimes we're talking about $500 to $1,000, but for some folks that is an insurmountable amount. And we're caught in a bind because by code, our institutions are mandated that they must pursue debt. But at the same time, we've got students who simply are not in a position to repay that debt. And so this would be an attempt to help them continue their degree programs, finish their curricular degree, as well as to gain employment to help them pay back the debt.
And, Madam Chair, sorry to intrude on your time. Last question, Madam Chair, Senator Hoshmi. The Section C, number 1, is that new language this year?
Madam Chair.
Was that the original bill last year, is that new language?
Madam Chair and Senator Pillion, that's new language.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Anyone here in opposition?
Really? All right, I want to hear the universities whine if they can't get their money.
No, but students get caught up in this catch-22 of can't get the transcript, therefore I can't complete the degree.
Yeah, Madam Chairman,
complete
I had no intention of supporting this bill, and I'm still a little iffy on it, but I will say that I like it a lot better if it just requires that credits that have already been paid for. I don't know how you figure that out, but there must be a way. Can then transfer. It gives me a little more comfort.
So, Madam Chair and Senator Newman, that's one of the implementation issues that we are hoping to work out before full committee next week, or this week.
Moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1110 be recommended for reporting. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Okay. Okay, I think that is it. Am I right? Oh, okay, all right. So next week is our last meeting. Oh, what's that look? Okay. No, you won't. Okay, so we'll see you all next week?